If you're struggling to get clients, it's probably not because people don't want your services. It's because you have a bad client acquisition process. I've made all of these mistakes in my career, and as such, I have built a really foolproof sales process and a really great client acquisition process. So if you avoid these mistakes and you start building upon your sales process, I promise that you're going to close more deals. Okay, let's dive in. As is the case with all of my videos, I am giving away this document, this framework. There is a sign-up form in the description of this video. You simply put your email into the form, and I will send you this entire template so that you can use. Just make sure you read it and you execute on it. Okay, why you're not getting clients and how to fix it. This is a simple framework to diagnose and fix your sales and your outreach. So let's talk about what this document is and what this video is. This is a diagnostic framework for client acquisition. I'm going to break down the most common mistakes that beginners, but really all entrepreneurs make, including myself, unfortunately, in their outreach and their sales process. And then this is a practical system to help you book more calls, close more deals. Mistake number one, without question, most people do not have a clearly defined avatar. And look, this is easy to do in the beginning because when you're just starting off your agency, you're kind of taking whatever you can get. And I understand that. However, as soon as humanly possible, you want to pick an industry that you own, you want to pick an expertise, and you want to pick a specific offer. A lot of people struggle with sales because they're offering way too many services. They're trying to work with everyone, and they're using vague language in their copy, like marketing or growth or revenue. This is a bad idea because everybody does this. And so this is going to stop you from getting clients because your prospects are going to look at this and they're not going to be able to differentiate you from anybody else. Here's the reality about client services. You don't really have anything that anybody else can't do. What you have is a process. Students inside the academy, they know this. I say it a lot. The process is the product. You have a way of doing things. And so you need to differentiate your way of doing things by having a really clearly defined service and a really clearly defined avatar. So this is why it stops you from getting clients, because prospects don't understand what it is that you do. And it's not that they don't understand what you do. They don't see like a specific outcome that you can generate. And you'll see this with LinkedIn posts and with really generic marketing agencies or generic service businesses of any kind or any business of any kind. There's just a really generic outcome, like we'll help you grow your business. Well, cool, but everybody says that. You need to be specific. So here's a really perfect example. I don't know this person, but this is basically the same exact LinkedIn request that I get 30 times a day. Right. So below is a perfect example of the dozens of LinkedIn requests I get every day. The riches are in the niches. Look, there's debate about this. Some people say that you don't want to be too specific. I couldn't disagree with that more. Be as specific as possible and be the very best in the world at one specific thing. So let's look at her description. She's a social media marketing specialist, social media strategy, content creation. Wow, I'm so blown away. Said nobody ever, right? This is terrible. This isn't going to help you at all. And so how you solve this in your outreach, one service, one clear outcome, one specific type of buyer. In fact, there's a really cool Hermosi video. I'm going to find it. Actually, hold on one second. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. I just found it. I actually wrote a blog post about it on my daily newsletter. Hermosi calls it the 1-1-1 model. And I really liked it. So the idea is one offer, one avatar, one marketing channel. So you have something very specific to offer to one very specific customer avatar, and you promote it on one marketing channel. And that's it. That's how you start. And you can easily hit $1 million just by doing that. Mistake number two, you are only posting content. This is probably the most common mistake that people make. And it's the mistake that most people make because you all suffer from the same fear, right? You're all struggling with the same insecurity. So what does it look like? Most people are afraid to sell. They're afraid to promote themselves. And which is just another way of saying that you're afraid to get rejected. And like, welcome to the club. I am too. But you have to get over it. And so people relieve themselves of this stress, of this anxiety by just posting more content on social media and praying to God that somebody reaches out to them, because hopefully someone's going to see you and think, oh, wow, this is the exact person that I want to give my money to, right? And it never happens. Yes, I'm an advocate of posting content. Obviously, like Copyblogger is all about content marketing, but content within itself is very rarely going to get you to seven figures or even eight figures in revenue. You need to get out there, you need to promote yourself. It doesn't work because awareness doesn't generate sales. It's very rare that a buyer, it does happen. And it's almost like it's a bad thing that it happens, because sometimes you guys are going to generate sales simply by creating more content and somebody reaches out to you and you get, what we call like slam dunk deals. They're freebies. They're just somebody gave you a deal basically, and you get that and you think, oh, I need to do more of this. But that's not true. What you need to do is you need to do outreach. You need to use your content as a way to generate conversations, book phone calls, and get sales. So content builds authority. This is the purpose of content. Your content is not about getting attention or exposure. I think that whole notion, like attention is the asset, is really, really stupid, because just think to yourself, how many of you have ever seen like an Instagram short that like really, really stuck with you and you think like, oh wow, this really, really changed my life, right? You give all of your attention away to this short form content and nothing ever happens from it. So attention is not the asset. Money is the asset. And sales happen intentionally, not passively. So anybody that wants to join the Copyblogger Academy, you will hear me say this all the time inside our framework, and that is leads over likes. You don't have to have a big following. I do not have a big following in comparison to some of these like huge influencers, but I do have a really robust and foolproof sales system. And that's because I'm not preoccupied by attention, by likes and shares and followers. What I do is I use my content to generate leads. So here's a really good example. And I use this example just because it's like the most basic example I have. This isn't even my main company. And through outreach, I created one product. It was called the Launchpad. Since then, the Launchpad, I've combined it with the Copyblogger Academy. So this product doesn't exist. And this isn't even my agency, right? This isn't even like this doesn't consist of any $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month deals. This is just a one-off product that I sold, and I made $164,000 over the course of March 25th was when I created this Stripe account, and today is January 20th, 2026. And you can even see here, it was in November that I combined the Launchpad into the Copyblogger Academy. So all of this revenue over the last 3 months is just sort of the recurring revenue from payment plans that I sold as opposed to paid in full. So $164,000, all from doing outreach for selling one product at $697, right? It's very, very, very feasible. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying just because this like wasn't even a side project. This was like a third project, just a cool idea that I had. And through outreach, I was able to use my Instagram and my LinkedIn, pretty modest followings, to generate significant revenue. All right. Mistake number 3, you are sending generic pitches and proposals. I can really say that one of my superpowers is the time and the detail that I put into writing proposals. I can break this mistake kind of into 2 sections, right? Because there's a difference between a pitch and a proposal. If you're pitching somebody, if you're doing outbound through social media, through a DM, that's a little bit different than a proposal. A proposal I spend hours on, and I make it so that if a potential prospect sees the proposal, they would feel crazy to say no to it, because like the whole business plan is already created for them. That's why my closing percentage on my agency deals is so high. But even if you're sending pitches, even if you're just sending generic outreach, you don't want it to be generic, right? You want to do even like the most basic research. Look at your prospect's website, see what it is that they're doing, find some of the pain points, start a conversation with them. This is the thing. This is like the new thing, right? Use AI to automate your sales. And I mean, sure, I'm positive that there's people that are having success with AI, but we're all pretty smart, and we can tell really, really quickly if the 1,000 DMs that we get are automated, generic people that are just sending out as many DMs as possible, hoping for a couple freebies, right? This is spam, and like AI spam is even worse than spam was 3 years ago because it's so automated. So spend time on your proposals. You're going to close more, but also spend time on your outreach and spend time on your pitches. Like less is more in a lot of cases. Have more meaningful conversations, have less outreach, have less spam. Okay. Mistake number 4, you aren't spending enough volume. So I know that this sounds contradictory because I just told you to do less, but you also do need to understand that you are not going to close deals and generate significant revenue by doing like 2 or 3 cold emails a day. And this is really where most of you fail because you try doing outreach for like an hour, and you send a couple of cold DMs, you send a couple of cold emails, maybe you fill out some contact forms on the website, and you don't get any replies, and so you just quit. You say this doesn't work, which is obviously not the case. This clearly works because lots of us are making a ton of money through an outbound sales platform and through an outbound sales system. Content is how the authority is built, but the outreach and the volume is where the actual revenue is created. So you got to send more than a few messages a day. We send 40 a day minimum, right? So I'm always looking for 40 a day, and then people give up too quickly. They think, "Oh, I sent 40 a day for 2 weeks and nothing happened. I should just stop." No, do it for a year. Send 40 outbound DMs for a year, and I promise that you can get to $10,000 a month simply by doing some content and some outreach. A year from now, if you're at $10,000 a month, you are not going to regret all the time that you spent sending cold DMs, cold emails, doing outreach that didn't get a reply. Volume matters because this is just a numbers game, right? That's all it is. It's just a numbers game. Not every message is going to get seen. Consistency beats intensity. You just keep going forever. Like, really, you just keep doing it forever and you never quit. So, look, you want to track all of this stuff. And I go through a lot of this in much more detail in the sales accelerator. But there's basically 2 different things that you want to track. You want to track your daily outbound outreach, which you can do through a spreadsheet. So this is like, how many messages did you send? How many conversations did you send? Out of those conversations, how many people raised their hand, which basically is another way of saying that they said yes to some kind of free sample, a free video, a free training, whatever, and how many of those hand raisers became actual leads into your CRM. So that's just some of your basic numbers. And then inside your CRM, you're really tracking like your more in-depth sales processes that convert a lead into a closed deal. Either way, once you know your numbers and you know like your average closing percentage, then from that point on, it's just about doing more. So if I close one $5,000 a month deal for every 100 messages that I send, then I know I just need to send more messages. It really, really is that simple. Okay, mistake number 5, easily the mistake that is costing you the most money, hands down. All of you, myself included, are nervous to get on the phone and sell. I still get nervous when I have to do virtual face-to-face meetings through like Google Meet or Zoom or whatever. It's uncomfortable. There's a high probability, or I should say a non-zero probability, that I'm going to get rejected. I don't like sitting in front of somebody as they just rejected me. And so a lot of you are going to avoid having phone calls with people, having meetings with people, because you're afraid of that rejection. Either way, you are not going to build millions of dollars in revenue. You're not going to build a multi-million-dollar business by selling through the DMs or by only sending people to landing pages and just hoping that they put in their credit card for you. There's a lot of talk about funnels and automation and ads and all of that stuff. And like, yeah, people have had success with it. I'm not saying that they haven't, but it is a much higher probability that you are going to be able to generate significant revenue if you have a sales system that includes closing people over phone calls. Look, for Copy Blogger Academy, the main price point is $697. I still get on the phone and I talk to people who are unsure about what it is that I'm offering to them. And if I spend an hour on the phone, there's plenty of people that are going to say that's not a good use of my time. I disagree, because you never know where that sale is going to go. You never know where that relationship is going to go. I've had plenty of instances where I spent time talking to somebody. Maybe that deal didn't even close right away, but a couple months down the road, this person got back to me and it did close. So phone calls, real relationships, real conversations are what you need to do. Long conversations with no next step is completely pointless. Giving free advice is completely pointless. A lot of people just want to be helpful. And so they avoid the close. They avoid going through that whole thing and saying, like, okay, time is up, give me your money. You have to do that. You have to close the deal. You have to be on the phone call. Avoid the easy way out, which is like post more content, create more sales pages, try to just sell through landing pages. Yes, there is a possibility that you'll have success that way. I promise you'll have much more success if you actually try to book phone calls. Mistake number 6, you're not following up enough. All too common. One message, no, I'm not interested. Okay, I'm done. This is why a CRM is so important. In the Sales Accelerator course, you'll see how task management and daily reminders are such a critical point. I'd say 70% of my sales are from follow-ups. Okay. People assume that no response needs no interest. And this is so critical. This is what I learned this from Darren, actually. He calls it an ecosystem. So just because somebody didn't necessarily follow up with you, it doesn't mean that they're not in your content ecosystem. It doesn't mean that they're not following you and listening to you and staying active with you. I just was on a conversation yesterday with somebody who I've never spoken to before. He said, I've been watching your videos for more than a year. You've always inspired me. Like, wow, that made me feel so good. And reminded me that people are in my ecosystem. I'm in the process of closing another deal right now. I hear this all the time. This is exactly what this person said to me. I pitched this person about a year and a half ago. At the time, he wasn't interested. I'm standing in my kitchen drinking a hot chocolate because I live in Denver and it's been really, really cold. So I'm standing in my kitchen drinking hot chocolate. My phone rings. Hey, Tim, it's such and such. Let's jump on a call. That's all it said. We got on a call. I said, yeah, man, I've been following you. I still read your newsletter every day. And obviously, my newsletter is right here, timstodds.com. And I haven't closed the deal yet. I have another follow-up call with this prospect tomorrow on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday. And I hope I'm going to close it. I don't know if I will, but either way, you need to follow up with people, because just because they haven't answered you, or maybe they're silent, or maybe they're still thinking about it, it doesn't mean that they don't see you. They're still in your ecosystem, and you need to appreciate that. And so that's why follow-ups, task management, your CRM, all of that is so important, because you're not just winging it. You're creating a real system. You're creating a real framework where the sales become automatic. It's a machine. You're creating a machine. All right, so here we go. Final takeaway, you have to sell. This is the thing. How do I underline this? How do I put this in red? It would be really great if all you needed to do is create a bunch of LinkedIn posts and people came out and just told you to take their money. That's not how the world works. You need to sell people. You need to promote yourself. People aren't going to reach out to you and offer you their money. And in fact, like I said before, when that does happen, a lot of times it's a bad thing, because it gives you this false hope that the whole more and more and more content is the way to go. No, leads over likes. Clients are not random. Sales are not random. Sales are the result of a sales system. The sales system is everything. Without the system, you're just completely making it up as you go along. And that's a bad recipe for success. The probability of success is very, very low. So if you fix these mistakes, your outreach becomes predictable. Your numbers become predictable. You just know, if I hit this many numbers, this many outreaches a day, this is how much money I'm going to make. Your pipeline becomes consistent. Your pipeline is everything, because most of my time, now that I have my outreach system built, isn't actually putting in the work. It's managing the pipeline. It's managing the leads, the relationships, the follow-ups, the proposals, the contracts that haven't been signed yet. It's collecting money as opposed to doing outreach. And then getting clients becomes repeatable. And most importantly, it becomes predictable, right? I don't go to sleep at night anymore worried where I'm going to get my next client from. When I was building my first agency, yeah, that was a worry of mine because I had a lot riding on it. But since I've invested in creating this sales system, I've invested in creating these content ecosystems and these flywheels through newsletters, blog posts, social media, and directories. It's automated. It's a machine. It doesn't mean that I don't have to work at it. It doesn't mean that I don't have to continuously invest into the system and work hard, but it is predictable. As long as my inputs into the machine are predictable and consistent, the outputs, meaning the money collected from the machine, are also predictable. And then that's how you scale. That's how you scale. That's how you grow. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really hope that most of you made it to the end of this video because that means that you're taking this seriously. Please leave a comment if you have any questions. Please smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to put your email into the sign up forms so that you can get the free outline and the framework. I appreciate you guys so much. My name is Tim, and I'll see you on the next one.